Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf, which is Yevamos Ayin Hey. We are holding 10 lines from the top of the Amud. In yesterday's Daf, we learned that a Tamei, how does he have access to Teruma? First, he needs Tevilah, then wait for nightfall, wait for Erev Shemesh, but that's about it. Even if he's a fellow who would need a kapara to complete his tahara process, let's say he's a full-fledged zav who had 3 experiences, he's a full mitzvah who needs to bring a carbon. Carbon is not required to enable him access to teruma. For karbanis, yes, to eat karban, but not for teruma. Now this was partially based on the pasuk, which began with the words ish mizera arain, who is a mitzvah, a zav, etc. He becomes tahar, and then he can have kachim. The Gemara interpreted this pasuk as a reference, in reference to teruma. It gives him access to teruma if he did some sort of tahara. What kind of tahara does a tzarua or a zav need to undergo? So according to Tanat Rabbi Shmuel, we're speaking about a partial zav, only a Baal Shtei Riyos, he had 2 experiences. We're not speaking about a confirmed mitzvah either. So either one of these individuals do not need a carbon, and therefore just doing Tevilah and Erev Shemesh allows them access to Teruma. Okay, asks the Gemara on the 10th line, that's according to Tanat Rabbi Shmuel. But ulahach Tana, the Poligale, the Tana, the Rabbi Shmuel, we have a different Tana who interprets the pasuk differently than Tana, the Rabbi Shmuel interprets it. This Tana says, the Amar bizav bal gimel riyos ubemitzer muchlat hakasav medaber. Who's speaking about a full, complete zav who had 3 experiences. A mitzvah who was confirmed as a mitzvah. They need karbanis. When the pasuk says they can't have kachim until they have tahara, evidently we're speaking about the 3 stages of kapara, 3 stages of tahara, I should say. The tevilah, the erev shemesh, and the kapara on top of that. When the pasuk says he cannot access kachim until he is tahar, how far into the tahara process are we speaking? Full, complete tahara. Adamaisi kapara, until he actually brings his karbanis. So we're not speaking about giving him access to truma, which is already allowed once he has tevilah and erev shemesh, 2 out of the 3 stages. No, we're speaking about giving him access to a karban to eat kachim. And here we're speaking about a fellow who needs to go through all 3 processes, tevilah, erev shemesh, and bring his own personal kapara, and that is required to give him access to the kachim. So we're not speaking about truma, we're speaking about kachim. If that's the case, we have a kasha. Don't we already have a pasuk for kachim? We may recall that we had a double pasuk by the Yoledis, the Isha after childbirth. The pasuk there speaks about giving her access, considering her tahir after she has brought her karbanis. And the Gemara concluded yesterday, we're speaking about giving her access to kachim, bringing her own personal obligations, bringing her karbanis, allows her access to achilas kachim. So why do we need 2 psukim for the same halacha? The pasuk by Yoledis and this pasuk that we just mentioned by the mitzvah, the zav, both saying the same exact thing. Why 2 psukim for kachim? Tzrichi, both are needed. If only for that pasuk by Yoledis, I would say perhaps, well, there it's different. Mishum de meruba tumasa. Her tuma is so grand and lengthy. It's such a lengthy, prolonged experience, sometimes until 80 days. So perhaps that's more severe. Aval bezav, but just a simple zav who's going through a short-lived experience. Emily, perhaps this requirement would not apply to him. He wouldn't need to bring his karbanis to give him access to kachim. That's why we need the pasuk by Zav as well. Because of Rachmana b'Zav, if only for the pasuk by Zav, I would say, yeah, over there, the Lehuta Mechlala, there it's exceptional because there are no Yotzei min haklal, there were no exceptions to the rule. Aval yoyledes, but by yoyledes, Emelei, perhaps there it's different because there are exceptions to her rule. Rashi says she can have dam tahara, and be mutter to her husband. So we have that exception by yoyledes, not found by the Zav. Perhaps she's not so severe. Tzricha, that's why we need a pasuk to tell you that the same halacha applies to the yoyledes as well. She could only eat karbanos once she fully completes the tahara procedure. Here comes another kasha. We already know that for teruma you need tevila and herav shemesh. We had actually 3 psukim to teach us that, and at the end of yesterday's share we discussed why we need 3 psukim. Now the Gemara comes up with a 4th pasuk as well. This pasuk is actually speaking about a kli that becomes tamei. In order to rectify that, b'mayim yuva v'tami ad ha'arav v'toyer. That's how the pasuk reads. So you have to immerse it in a mikveh. V'tami ad ha'arav, it remains tummy until evening, and then v'toyer, it is treated as toyer. Normally, why that pasuk? Evidently, the pasuk is speaking about truma. Considering you to be toyer as soon as you have 2 out of the 3 things, tvila and herav shemesh. Normally, why another pasuk for truma? It's already been taught elsewhere. Amar Rab Zera, this is unique. Until now we spoke about eating truma. Linegia. Now we're speaking about coming into contact, touching truma. Whether the fellow who's tummy wants to touch truma, whether the kli, which is tummy, which will come in contact with truma. Even negia is not allowed until you have both parts of the process. Tvila and herav shemesh, the sanya, as the Bryce explains. Getting back to that pasuk, we spoke about a kli. Ba'mayim yuva v'tamei. V'tamei means it's still tamei ad ha'erev until evening. And then it says v'toyer. Rashi explains. V'tamei sounds like he's still tamei until evening, and v'toyer sounds like he's already toyer, even prior to evening. How does this work? V'tamei sounds like he's still tamei yachal ha'koil, perhaps completely tamei. Tamei leimar v'toyer. Pasuk says v'toyer, he's already toyer now, before evening. If only for v'tar, yachal ha'koil, completely tar, tamalem v'tamei. That's what the pasuk says. No, he's still tamei. So which way is it? Okay, it's that. It depends for what. He has an aspect of tahara, but still has a lingering aspect of tuma as well. Depends what you want to use him for. It depends how high you want to go. Kanle maser, with reference to maser sheni, tefillah is sufficient. He's considered toyer. Kam the truma. With reference to touching truma, he's still somewhat tamei. The higher you go, the more kedusha there is, the more tahara you need to enable that kedusha. Ve'vachana, perhaps the other way around. Maybe truma is lower than maser sheni. Mistaver, it is a svara. Ki hechi de chamira achila de truma ma'achila de maser. Just as when it comes to eating truma, we concluded yesterday that achilas truma stands higher than achilas maser. You need tvila and herav shemesh to enable achilas truma as opposed to maser sheni, where tvila is sufficient. Hachinami here as well. When it comes to touching, let's assume it on the same plane. Chamira negia de truma menegia de maser. Touching truma is more severe and stands higher than touching maser. You need tvila and herav shemesh for truma, as opposed to merely tvila for maser. Viba is ema. Another possible solution to this question, meaning how would we know that even for negias teruma you need tvila and herav shemesh? Negia de teruma me'achanafka. That's learned from the following pasuk. The pasuk is speaking about a yoledes. We had this on top of the amud. B'chol kodesh lo yisiga. She shouldn't come into contact with kodesh. We learn ashara la'oichel. The isha who is tamei can't eat, can't consume the kodesh, can't consume the teruma. Perhaps the pasuk speaks about touching. Pasuk speaks about how do you get achila? Talmud Leimar. B'chal kodesh leisiga. Ve'lamigdash leisavei. In the same breath, we have don't touch kodesh and don't come into the migdash in this state of impurity. We connect it to makish kodesh lemigdash. We draw one from the other. We equate it to. We connect the kodesh issue with the migdash issue. Ma migdash, just as the violation in terms of Beis HaMikdash, entering Betuma, is something that's so severe it generates Chiyav Misa. Davar sheyesh bo netilas neshama. It's a violation which entails removal of the neshama, meaning it brings about Misa. If one enters the Mikdash when he is in a state of Tumah, there's Karis. That's a known fact. So Af Kodesh, likewise, the reference to keeping away from an item which is Kodesh is also discussing something which is in this type of context. Davar sheyesh bo netilas neshama, some sort of offense, some sort of avera, which generates Chiyav Misa. Ubenagia netilas neshama leka, we know for a fact there's no netilas neshama, there's no Misa brought about by just touching Truma. We don't find it anywhere in the Torah. So apparently, when this pasuk speaks about don't enter the Mikdash, don't touch Kodesh, we assume it's something very severe, something which has severe consequences, like netilas neshama. So b'chol kodesh leisiga doesn't just mean touching; it means ingesting, consumption, eating. Oh, if that's the case, then why the pasuk describe it as negia? If we're speaking about eating, just say eating. Why did the pasuk express it in this manner, in a lashon of negia? B'chol kodesh leisiga. Pasuk is telling you negia kachila, that touching is tantamount to eating, meaning, as the same halacha, the fellow who can eat can touch. The fellow who cannot eat, such as a Tamei who did tefillah but not yet Erev Shemesh, just as he can't eat teruma, that's been established based on those psukim yesterday. So certainly negia is included as well, and that's how we know that a tvul yoim, fellow who only had tefillah, no Erev Shemesh, cannot even touch teruma. So bottom line is, we have 3 levels of tahara corresponding to 3 levels of kedusha. Tefillah allows Maser Sheni. Erev Shemesh allows teruma. Bringing your kapara, in the case that you do need a kapara, allows you access to kachim, and as we concluded, eating and negia are on the same plane. Let's go back to the Mishnah. We have a fellow whose male limbs, the Evora Zachar, were injured, were damaged to the point that he no longer can bear children. A B'tzua Daka, Krushavcha, he's not allowed to marry a Bas Yisrael. Mishnah says, if an Isha has already been married to a Kohen, and then he developed this condition, she was already eating Truma through him, then he became a B'tzua Daka, a Krushavcha, she may continue eating Truma as long as there's no physical interaction between them. Asks the Gemara, Man Tana, who is this Shita that holds that Mishtameres Labia Psula, even though she is anticipating interacting with the fellow who may not interact with her, and was speaking Da'iraisa, this is an Issa Da'iraisa, still in all she can continue eating Truma Achla, even though she's awaiting this type of interaction. But as long as it hadn't yet happened, she's still safe, she's still kosher for Truma. Amar Belazar, says the Rabbi Belazar the Amayra, it's a machlokes. But machlokes shnuya. It's based on the machlokes that we had back on Daf Nun Vav Amud Beis. We spoke about an almana who was engaged to a kohen gadol but not yet married. Rabbi Meir says, look, she's awaiting a bia psula, she can't have Truma. Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Shimon say no. Ba'asher hu sham, let's deal with it when it comes. Right now she's okay, she can have Truma. Our Mishnah apparently is whose shita? Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Shimoni. Even though this fellow may not interact with her as married, but as long as it hadn't happened, she's still okay. So that's Rabbi Lozo the Amir's interpretation of our Mishnah. This is not going according to Shitas Rabbi Meir, who says that Mishtameres Labia Psula makes her possible. Rabbi Yechon Amar, no. Afilu Temer Rabbi Meir. Even Rabbi Meir would agree that in our case it's different. As long as there's no physical interaction post-condition, she's still okay. Shani Hoche, here it's different than the Mishnah over there. Shekvar Achla. Keep in mind, this Isha was legally married to this fellow, and then he developed this condition. She had been eating truma all along. She already has that privilege in her hands. You can't take it away just because you're expecting perhaps that she'll interact with him as married and make her apostle. As long as that hadn't happened, she's okay. Different than the Almana, who's really engaged to the Kohen Gadol. She never had achilas truma up until this point. You're giving her to her because of that future interaction, because she's anticipating marriage with this Kohen Gadol. That you cannot do, because she's mishtamer to be a psula. But over here, she was perfectly married. It was a valid marriage, a healthy man. She was eating truma all along. You want to take it away from her? You want to remove that status because of some sort of uncertainty she might interact with him in the future? No reason to say that. So even Rabbi Meir, who doesn't allow the Almana l'Kohen Gadol to eat, but over here she could. Rabbi Lezer, now the Lezer, the Amoyer, who disagreed, who said no, Rabbi Meir would not work with this Mishnah. Shekvar ochla lo yamrinan. This element, this kvar ochla element, the fact that she's already been granted achilas truma privileges, that's not a valid factor. You know why? Because otherwise, Bas Yisrael, shenisas l'Kohen. A typical case of Bas Yisrael married a Kohen. Umeis Bala, husband passes away. Toichal, let her continue eating truma. Shekvar ochla, because she's already had that privilege. Can't take it away from her. Apparently, you don't reckon with that argument. Rabbi Yehuda responds, no, how can you compare? Hasan Paka Kenyane. Husband passes away. She's no longer his possession. Of course that expires. Why would she continue eating? Hachal Paka Kenyane, but over here by the P'tzur Daka, they're still married. She's still Kinyan Kat, she's still his. And as long as they didn't interact, they didn't make her a halala, she's still okay, because she's already been granted that privilege. You can't take it away from her. So the bottom line is, we have a halach in the Mishnah. Bas Yisrael married to a Kohen, who turned into a P'tzur Daka later on. She was already eating truma. Mishnah says she can continue as long as there was no physical, inappropriate interaction between them. According to Rabbi Lazar the Amoira, this is only following those Tanaim that allow the Amana l'Kohen Gadol, Amana engaged to Kohen Gadol to eat truma. But according to Rabbi Meir, just like over there, he can't eat because she's awaiting, she's anticipating a bia psula. Here as well, she can't eat. Rabbi Yehuda says even Rabbi would agree in this case because she was accessing truma until this point. You can't take it away from her, and she's still married to him. In this case, she can continue eating unless there's some sort of inappropriate action which makes her a halal. Okay, continuing on this topic of the P'tzur Daka Akrus Shafcha. Ezu P'tzur Daka, Tanaraban. Ezu P'tzur Daka, how do we describe this fellow? What exactly happened? Kol Shanifzu Beitzim Shaloi. His Zachar, Beitzim, his testicles became Nifza, they were injured. Rashi says, K'moi Petza, Makas, Cherev, Vesakan, they were cut. Vafilu Achas men, even if only one of them was cut. Vafilu Nikfu, even just punctured. Vafilu Nemaiku, shriveled. Vafilu Chasro, they're missing some. Omar Bishmo, Bnoi, Shorichem Brek, Shemati, Vepi Chacham B'Yavne. I heard this big chiddush from the Chachamim in the Bekerem B'Yavne, situated, set up like the rows of a vineyard in Yavne. That's where the Sanhedrin was. That's where I heard this chiddush halacha. Kol shein lo yela beitza achas. If a fellow, according to some Rishonim, means the fellow was born with only one beitza, that's okay. Ein lo elas rischama. We treat him like a fellow who became sterile through an illness. Rischama, like the son, meaning it just happened naturally. It wasn't man-made. V'kasher, and he's okay to marry. As we're going to see in Amid Beis, P'tzua daka, Krushafcha is only an issue if it's man-made. But if it's naturally so, then it's fine. So even though this fellow is missing one beit, that's okay. Asks the Gemara, how do you compare it to Stris Chama, which is just a description of an illness? This is not an illness. He was born without an egg. Stris Chama Sakadaitach, why are you comparing it to that? Elahari, who kissed Stris Chama Vakasha? We don't mean it's the same exact condition. Stris Chama describes an illness. Here it's not an illness, he's just lacking one of the beitzim, but it's still kosher, since it wasn't actually damaged, it wasn't man-made, he's just missing the beitzim. Asks the Gemara, you mean to say that all these types of injuries, cut, punctured, disable a person, don't allow him to bear children? V'nikav lo imoila, do you mean to say a punctured fellow also has that inability? V'hu gavra, there was a story with this fellow, the solak ledikli climbed up this palm tree, v'charza, and he was punctured silva with a thorn, bebeitzim, in the beitzim, v'nafak nei kechut de mugla, in fact, this string of mugla, Rashi says, it was a keshichva zera, came out of him. So apparently he was seriously hurt. Va'oiled, and still he was able to bear children. So apparently it doesn't disable his ability. Says the Gemara, actually, Hashalach li Shmuel, l'kamei Rav. Shmuel actually sent this very question to Rav. What about this fellow here who had this injury? What's the halacha? V'amar lei, and Rav tells him, tzei v'chazer al bonav, go investigate his children. Me'ayin heim, where they from? Meaning, clearly this fellow really naturally cannot bear children, and there's certainly a suspicion regarding the identity and source of his children. So bottom line is, even punctured limbs would interfere with his ability to bear children. Amar Vidamar Shmuel, P'tzua daka b'dei shemayim kosher. If a fellow is a p'tzua daka through a non-man-made situation, b'dei shemayim, as she says on the fourth line, either he was born this way or is sort of shocked through some sort of natural occurrence, loud thunder, etc. This doesn't make him puzzle. Amarava, Hainu de Karinan, I'll prove this to you. Because the pasuk reads Pitsua, which sounds like it was done to him. He was harmed, he was injured. V'loi Karinan Ha Pitsua, instead of Ha Pitsua, which sounds like it's just a title. This is the way he is from birth. Apparently, the concern is strictly if it's man-made. B'masnisa Tana, in the Brisa, we have a different raya to this halacha. Because the pasuk says like this, Nemar lo yava Pitsua daka. The pasuk speaks about this fellow not joining the fold. V'nemar, and the next pasuk says, "Lo yave mamzer." A mamzer can't either join the community, and we equate the two things. Ma lahalam b'dei adam, just like the mamzer was brought about, unfortunately through b'dei adam. It was a man-made phenomena. Avkam b'dei adam here as well. The P'tzudah Krushafcha describe some sort of condition which resulted from personal intervention. Amar Rava. There were three possible injuries which generate this condition, which bring about this status. Petsua bekulan, dach bekulan, and krus bekulan. You see, the pasuk says lo yava petsua. Rashi learned petsua means cut, right? Cut, snipped. Petsua daka refers to being ground and crushed, and then it says uchrus shafcha, which means it was shortened. So all these types of injuries can affect a person, whether they are found in the beitzim, the three possible areas where they can be found. Beitzim, which are injured, the actual gid, the Evar Zacha, the vein contained within, and the chutei habeitzim, the sort of strings or veins from which the testicles are suspended. So any type of injury found in any of these three areas are problematic. Petsua bekulan, whether all these things were, any of these things were cut, dach bekulan, whether they were crushed, koros bekulan, whether any of them were actually shortened, or I would say detached. Detached is better. Koros bekulan, detached. That creates his condition. When we say Patsua Bekulan, we mean Bein Sheniftzah HaGid, whether the actual Gid was cut. Bein Sheniftzah Beitzim, whether the Beitzim were cut. Bein Sheniftzah Chutei Beitzim, whether the Chutim of the Beitzim were damaged in this manner. Now, Dach, crushed, also Bekulan, applies to all three things. Bein Shenidach HaGid, whether to the Gid. Bein Shenitchu Beitzim, whether the Beitzim. Bein Shenitchu Gud, Chutei Beitzim, or the Chutim of the Beitzim. Likewise, Karas, detached, applies to all them, Bekulan. Bein Shenichras HaGid, whether the Gid. Bein Shenichrasu Beitzim, Bein Shenichrasu Chutei Beitzim. Amalei Halmer Rabbanan LeRava. So this Talmud asked Rava, how would you know that P'tzua Daka refers to a limb in the area of the Zachar? Perhaps it's referring to an injury sustained in one's head, Chas v'shalom. Amar Leisi says, I'll tell you why. You see, in contrast to the other types of inadequacies, the mamzer, the amoini, the meyavi, the adaymi, you find that the Torah refers to descendants and deiros and generations. Look, the mamzer, he's not allowed in even the 10th generation, even deira asiri is asur. When it comes to the mitzvah adaymi, until 3 generations. So we discuss generations, except for one individual, the P'tzua Daka Krushavcha. There is no mention, no reference to generations. You know why? Because he can't make generations. Apparently, his deficiency interferes with his ability to bear children. Shema Mina, this is the biggest proof that we are speaking about Isay Makim, the Makim of the Zachar, and this disables that function. Asks the Gemara. Maybe not. V'dilma, maybe we're speaking about a different type of injury. And he can have children. Why doesn't the Torah make mention of Deiris? Very simple. The Ihu the Asr, because the Isra only applies to him. Brei ubar brei kasher. But doesn't apply to his son or grandchild. That's why the Torah doesn't make reference to children. It doesn't apply to anybody aside from him. So how do you know what type of injury we're speaking about? Answers the Gemara. Dumya de krus shafcha. Pasuk says, Lo yavai P'tzua Daka ucherus shafcha. Apparently, there are similar deficiencies, similar injuries. Ma krus shafcha ba'isei makam. Just as krus shafcha refers to something ba'isei makam, af hai nami. This as well, the P'tzua Daka injury is to be found ba'isei makam. Uchrus shafcha gufei memayde ba'isei makam. How did you know krus shafcha is in reference to isei makam? Eimam esfasei. Maybe it's speaking about some type of a cut that he sustained on his lips. A chrus shavcha, a place which, from which he drools, from which liquid it gets emitted, right? A place which shayfech. How do you know which area? Maybe the lips, from which liquid is shayfech. Says the Gemara, it says chrus shavcha, right? Shavcha ksiv, but makam shayfech. It refers to a place which is shayfich. It spills out liquids as opposed to his mouth. Rashi says that's not shayfich. It's a different type of function. It's zorik. One can actually toss. His saliva is split. Limeirachik, toss it far away, but it doesn't have that spilling effect. So that's apparently speaking about that Evar HaZachar, which has that function, and that's where he sustained this injury. Maybe he sustained a cut by his nose, which is a place where a liquid, drools at it. The nose runs, right? So maybe that's the shavcha that we're speaking about. Says the Gemara, miksiv b'shvoich karus. Does the pasuk say that the place which is shavach, which a place which is, which drools, which runs, that place sustained a cut b'shvoich karus? It doesn't say that. Sorry, miksiv b'shvoich. It doesn't say krus b'shvoich, that the cut took place in a place where it generally runs, such as the nose. No, it says krus shavchai, krus shavcha, which sounds like the cut, makes it spill out, makes it run out. Misha al yidei krisa shayfich, shelo al yidei krisa ene shayfich. So the cut causes it to be shayfich, but without a cut, right? Otherwise, it wouldn't be shayfich. It wouldn't actually flow out. Elam kalech would just spurt out. So the krisa, the cut, changes its function from just a low-level emission to an actual spill. That's referring to the Eivar HaZachar. Typically, it's only Mekaleach. It's a measured type of emission, as opposed to the Krisa, which sort of opens it and just brings about a flow, a shvicha. As opposed to one's nose, whether there is or there isn't a cut, it still functions the same way. It just flows out smoothly. It runs, the mucus just runs out, and the krisa doesn't really change, the intensity of that function. So bottom line is we proved that krushavcha refers to the Eivar HaZachar. The krisa changes its function from kiluach to outright shvicha, and that proves our point. Masisa Tana. In the Brisa, we have a different source to this definition. How would we know that the injury takes place be'osim makom? This is very similar to the Brisa before. Ne'amar lo yovei p'tzua daka, v'ne'amar lo yovei mamzer. We have p'tzua daka and mamzer in close proximity, and we draw a parallel. Ma'ala halam be'osim makom, just as mamzer is generated by inappropriate behavior relating to those mekayimos. Afkan be'osim makom. Likewise, the p'sula p'tzua daka krushavcha relates to that area as well. Continues the Gemara. Suppose there was an interesting type of puncture in this fellow's aver. Nikav lemata me'atorah. Now we learned in the Mishnah that this whole issue of the nikav and krus in the actual aver is only if it is to be found me'atorah ulamala. So if it's position going from the atorah upward, the atorah is the raised flesh at the edge of at the tip of the Eivar HaZachar, if the injury is to be found from the atorah to the guf, me'atorah ulamala, from the atorah in the direction of the guf, then that poses a concern, because if it's from the atorah down, meaning from the atorah away from the guf, Rashi says that's just bisra ba'alma. It's treated just like flesh. It's not considered the makam hagid. I would not pose a concern. Now, we just learned that the concern is whether it was detached, cut, or even punctured. Here comes an interesting shayla. Nikav lemata me'atorah. Suppose the puncture, the nekav, starts at the tip, at the edge of the Eivar HaZachar, the furthest point, right? Lemata me'atorah. It's below the atorah. It's away from the guf. At that point, at the point of entry of that nekav, there's no concern yet. It's only flesh. But it comes up. It exits the aver at a point where it's lamala me'atorah. It's between the atorah and the guf, where it poses a concern. But keep in mind, it's only a one-sided puncture over there, right? So one side is kosher, the other side is not. What do you do now? Savar b'chil bar abel achshur, you figured it's kosher, but it's not a full nekav in a problematic area. Amalei Rabbi Asi responds, Hachi Amar Shimon Levi, no. Atorah kol shimakeves. In this case, it's possible because if the nekav traverses, it goes through the atorah. That's mi'akav the person from having children. It gets in the way of childbearing, and therefore it is included in this isser. He has experienced this condition of p'tzua daka krushavcha. However, Mishnah says, but if there's even a hair's breadth of atorah, right? So the atorah is that raised flesh, and even just a drop of the atorah is still intact. So the gid, the farthest edge, the tip of the Eivar HaZachar was removed, but even a drop of the atorah remained behind, which means he didn't really interfere. He didn't get too high. He didn't damage the actual gid. Then you're okay. Yasser Ravina is sitting, and he had this following question. When we say Malay Achut she'amru, al pnei kula, or al pnei ruba? There needs to be at least a thin layer of the atorah on top of the whole gid. So if we have the gid, and the edge was removed, and the atorah, the raised area, is still there. So even if the atorah has been thinned out, but just a drop is left over, that's okay, because that's indicative of the fact that you haven't really gotten to the gid. The gid is safely covered. So the full layer of the atorah has to be there, or even a hair's breadth, even just a drop. a chut asara, but that chut asara has to be fully intact, fully in place, or even if just most of it is there, even if a part of it was removed, and perhaps that would indicate that part of that gid was also interfered with, but it's still okay. It's like, rube kekule. Al pnei kula, or al pnei ruba. Amarle rava, teisva, the Ravini tells him, no, maloya chut al pnei ruba, even roiv is enough, and actually the rush is geres al pnei kula. You need the entire layer there, which protects the gid. Uklapi reisha, of course, that thin layer of atar has to be on the body side. Right? So let's say they thinned out the atara, but they thinned out the body side. That's a problem. You see, if the outer side, the lower side, the side that's farther away from the guf was thinned out, and you left just a thin layer of the atara towards the body, that protects the gid. That's okay. But if you went this way, you thinned out the atara from the body down, and you left just a drop of the atara at the edge, you defeated the purpose. Because the gid is closer to the body, that has already been interfered with. Amar Rav Huna. Suppose the gid was not really detached, was not really shortened, was not really cut, but it was tinkered with in a different manner. Kukumas. Let's say the walls of the gid, the walls of the vein within the Evar Zacha were thinned, like you can sharpen a pencil. So the walls were thinned, and it came to a point. Kukumas, that's ksheira, it's okay, because the gid is still intact, and it allows the zera to develop properly as it comes through that conduit. Kimarziv psula. Suppose it was formed into a U-shaped conduit, like a gutter, like an eaves trough, like a U-shaped pipe. So the top layer of that gid, like one wall of that gid was removed. Psula. That's no good. You know why? High shalat be'avira. Because in this case of the U-shaped conduit, it's exposed to the air, exposed to the outside, in which case it doesn't allow for proper warming and developing of the zera, and doesn't allow for childbearing. V'hai, but the kulmas fellow, it's not really exposed to the air, it's still covered, although it's thin, they're not as insulated, but it's still contained, and it's still okay. Rabbi Chizda Amar, he goes the other way. Kimarzev kshera. If it's a U-shaped conduit, it's okay. Kikulmas psula, but if the walls are totally thinned, that's no good. High gorit. Because in the case of the marzev, it still drags. It allows the zera to come through it at a proper clip, at a proper pace, in a way that it gets the chamimus that it needs, because it has a proper containment of walls, whichever walls that are there. True, one wall is missing, but the three that are there are properly structured. They're thick enough to provide the proper environment for the zera to develop. As opposed to the kulmus, whose walls were thinned out, that doesn't provide the proper temperature and environment for the zera to develop. I like the first approach. Highly shalt be'avira, because the marziv fellow, by him the area is exposed to the avir. Highly shalt be'avira, because the kulmus is fully contained, although the walls are thin, but it's not really exposed, not really exposed to the avir, and therefore the zera develops. V'hashal be'avir, as opposed to the marzev, who has one side of the gid exposed, and that's a problem. Imisham gridusa. What about the point of the gradus that we said? Meaning, perhaps since the gid has been thinned out, it's all there but thinned out, perhaps it can't really develop its zera properly. That's not true. Let's draw a parallel from the plug, the faucet that's inserted into a barrel. So Rashi explains like this: the plug was sharp, was pointy. They would just push it into the barrel, like a screwdriver. They would stick it in, so it's sharp in the front, and then it would widen. Right, as it's pushed in, it would just widen and widen, and then it would plug. It would come to a stop, and it would plug the wine. And then you would open the faucet, and the wine comes out through the faucet. Here as well, says Rashi, the kulmus, so his gid is sort of coming to a point, right, like a sharpened pencil. But as you go back towards the person's guf, it widens and widens, and that is enough to provide the proper, temperature and warmth within the area to allow for proper bishul hazera, development of the zera, and allow for childbearing. I have a shaila for you. I want to tell you halacha. Hachi Amar Mazutra, Mishmei Rav Papa. He said halacha as follows. Hilchasa, the conclusion is, Ben Kekumas, Ben Kamarzav Kshera. Whether it's shaped like this or like that, it's okay. So he's making. Miu, mi boili. But still, I have a shaila. This is Ravina asking Marema. But I have one question here. This kumas, this marziv arrangement, where is it in the gid? Is it lamata ma'atorah, below the atorah? Or lamala? Or is it from the atorah towards the guf? Where is this taking place? Pshita says, well, of course, the lamala ma'atorah. We're speaking above the atorah, closer to the guf. Because it's below, you don't even need a gid anymore. I feel a nichras agid nam, even if it's fully detached. It's missing, it's okay. I was explaining the name of Rashi. It's only bisr ba'am, it's like flesh. It's not treated like the gid. So what was this question? Below the atorah, you can remove it completely. The chiddush is even above the atorah. Between the atorah and the body. Kekumas is okay, Kemarziv is okay, even though you can't really remove it, but if you manipulate it in this way, it's still okay. So what was this question? For Ravina, the reason why he asked it, he was just trying to sort of trick him. Rashi says, Leida mechudadu lahashav shelas. He wanted to see if he's into things, so he gave him this sort of, this question, which was really an obvious thing. Says the Gemara, Hu Uvda, there was a story, the Hava b'masa machasir, in this town, and Rashi learns that this fellow's situation was marziv. That's what he had. Shafye mar barav ashi kilkumas. Mar Rav Ashi took this fellow and he sanded it down. He smoothed it down and he changed it from marziv to kumas somehow. V'achshu, and he made it kosher. So he evidently held that kumas is fine and marziv isn't. The Rambam has a different pshat in the Gemara. This is Rashi's pshat. The Rambam learns what happened was this fellow had a nega, and Rav Ashi removed the nega by cutting off the arla which had the nega. It's allowed, right? The halacha is allowed to remove a nega if it's on the arla, and he did it in a way that he turned them into a kumas, and that's okay. Says the Gemara, how Uvda, there was an incident to have in Padisa, in the town of Padisa, where the following interesting thing happened. Istatim gufsa de shifa zera. So this fellow's zera conduit, this fellow's zera channel inside the Evar Zachar got plugged up. Va'apik b'mokim ktanim. And the zera now came out of the mokim ktanim, the channel from which the urine comes. Right? The Gemara in Bechoros brings that a person has two nekavim. There are two conduits, one for the zera, one for the ketanim, and the zera here was blocked, and the zera, the conduit of the zera got blocked, and it got diverted through the ketanim. Sava, by the way, the Chazon Ish says that nowadays the teva changed, and we no longer have the two conduits. It's all through one system. In any case, this fellow, he got a diversion. Savara Bibar Bailach Shuri, he figured it's okay. Why? It's not Patsua, it's not Karas, it's not Dach, it's none of the above mentioned conditions. Why shouldn't he be kosher? Amra Papi, he disagreed very strongly. He tells Rabbi Abaye, you come from Abaye's family. Abaye's family was actually the descendants of Eli HaKohen. Eli HaKohen's family had a curse placed upon them. Right, his children, because of their inappropriate behavior in the Beis Hamikdash, they got a klala, they got an einish, that they die young. So Rav Papi tells Rabbi Bar Abai, Mishum de'asu mimuloi, because you're coming from an unfortunate family, unsuccessful family. Amrisu mili mulyasa, you say unsuccessful things, you say unsubstantiated things. How can you say this fellow's kosher? Certainly it's not. He can't bear children. B'mukayma, the zera, which runs through its proper place, mavashla, develops properly and can bear children. Shloim b'mukayma, but otherwise, if it's diverted to the other channel, mavashla, it can't develop, it can't bear children. And certainly this fellow is experiencing one of those conditions described in the Torah, which makes him unable to marry. Okay, let's do a quick chazar of today's daf. We started with the 3 levels of tahara required for 3 different levels of kedusha. For Marser Sheni, a person has to be toivel. For Truma, he needs Herev Shemesh as well, but not Kapara. For Kachim, he needs Kapara. Whether he's a Zav or there's a Ledes, doesn't matter. And the Gemara concluded that this pertains to eating these materials or even coming into contact with these materials. If an Isha was married to a man who then became a B'tzur Daka, but they have not yet interacted physically, Mishnah says she can continue eating his Truma. Says Rabbi Lazar, well, it doesn't work with Rabbi Meir because she's anticipating it'll be a psula. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, everybody agrees it works because in this case, she's already eating truma, you can't take it away from her, as long as she behaves appropriately. We went into the sugya of p'tzuodaka, krushavcha, which pertains to the Ivari HaZachar. How do we know? We have 2 rayas to that. Either because kirus shavcha indicates to us that the krisa, the damage, the cut, alters his function, alters his ability. It makes it flow, it makes it spill, and that pertains to the Ivari HaZachar. Another raya was because the pasuk puts it next to the concept of mamzer, which is certainly a man-made phenomenon. Likewise, we learned that psuodak and krushavcha has to be something which is bidei adam, brought about by man. We have 2 rayas. Rather than say ha-petzua, it says petzua, which sounds like there was some sort of occurrence. He was hurt, he was injured. And that's dafka bidei adam. Or because the pasuk puts it next to mamzer, which is something bidei adam. All types of injuries, whether petzua, whether dach, whether chorus, applying to whether the beitzim, the gid, or the chutei beitzim qualify for this condition. The krisas hagid, the gid being damaged, only applies mi'ator olamala, between the guf and the atorah, but not below that, which is only like basar ba'alma. The Gemara concludes, Hilchasa, if the gid was sort of tinkered with, it was turned into a kulmus or a marziv, that's still okay. And the Gemara concluded that if the shvil, the channel through which the zera flows, got blocked and diverted the zera elsewhere, he can't bear children, and he's included in this halacha as well. B'suras Tevis and all the best to you. Atzlacha Rabbah.